One of the most important aspects of painting accurate proportions is having an accurate drawing under your painting. This will ensure that your painting turns out looking the way you want it to, and it's going to ensure that your facial features and proportions are correct, and will help us specifically in mapping out how we will paint our portraits. So a lot of new painters feel anxious when they start to draw because they think that their skills are not good enough, and they also think that it's cheating to use tools that can aid in their weaknesses. But these are myths that we are going to dispel right now so you can move on and create amazing portrait paintings, okay? So anyone can learn to draw. It does take time and practice. By learning how to draw, you develop an understanding of light, value, shading, and blending. And all these skills are really handy and necessary for portrait painting. So if you don't know how to draw, should you give up on portrait paintings? Fortunately, no. In my personal opinion, I think we place too much importance on learning how to draw before painting. But from my experience, I have seen in myself and a lot of my students the value of teaching painting before learning how to draw. And the main reason is that when you paint, you are not concerned with getting every single line perfect, but more on the building of the portrait and the overall feel and look of your portrait painting. I feel like painting is sort of the in-between of sculpture and drawing. So this is going to give you so much more freedom to experiment with color, value, and brush strokes without worrying about whether or not your drawing is perfect. Now, this doesn't mean that you should never learn how to draw. And in fact, learning how to draw is only going to make you a better portrait painter. But if you are feeling anxious or overwhelmed about starting to paint because you don't think your drawing skills are good enough, then don't worry. There are tools available that all artists use, even if they can draw or not draw. And in this course, we're going to be using as many tools as possible to help us with our painting process. Because in my opinion, the value of figuring out how to paint a realistic portrait as fast as you can speeds up your understanding of the in-between hows and whys of how to get there. You're soon going to find out that even if you drew and rendered every detail from your reference photo onto your canvas for painting, it's not necessarily going to make your portrait painting easier to paint or look more realistic. In fact, if you're not using a painting process, then having a 3D rendered accurate drawing may actually make your painting look less realistic. And this is because a drawing can give the illusion of being three-dimensional, but when you begin to add the paint, all that gets erased as the paint overlays the drawing. The drawing that will actually help you in your painting process is a drawing that not only maps out the basic locations of your portrait's features, but also acts as a blueprint for your painting process so that you know exactly what steps to take when you begin to paint. Now, with all that being said, in this step of the course, you're going to learn about the tools and the processes you can use to make sure that your drawings are as accurate as possible before you even begin to start painting. And this will help set you up for success and make the painting process much easier. Okay, so let's dive in.